Society has brainwashed you to believe that significant transformation demands significant chunks of time, keeping you paralyzed in a waiting pattern that ensures you'll never start. Meanwhile, the top performers in every field have discovered what I call time alchemy, the ability to accomplish in one focused hour what most people fail to achieve in 8 scattered hours. Your problem isn't lack of time, it's lack of understanding about how time actually works. While you've been scrolling through social media complaining about your busy schedule, someone with the exact same 24 hours is building an empire during their sacred hour. The most painful truth you'll hear today is that your lack of time is simply lack of courage disguised as a legitimate excuse. Right now, at this very moment, you possess something more valuable than money, more precious than gold, more powerful than authority. You hold the most democratic resource in the universe, time. Everyone gets 24 hours, no more, no less. The millionaire in his mansion and the person sleeping under the bridge both receive the same allotment. The question is not how much time you have, but what you do with the time you've been given. I was visiting a friend in the Bahamas years ago. He took me out on his boat, and as we drifted along the clear blue waters, I noticed the most spectacular coral reefs below. These massive, colorful structures stretch for miles. I asked my friend, how long did it take for these reefs to form? He looked at me and said, centuries. Just a little bit of growth each day. Consistently. Over time. That moment changed my perspective forever. Those coral reefs represent the power of small, consistent contributions. They didn't become magnificent overnight. They grew inch by inch, day by day. Year after year, the coral polyps didn't worry about creating an entire reef in one day. They simply focused on their 1 hour of contribution, their small part, and let time handle the rest. Your life follows the same principle. The greatest achievements aren't building grand, sweeping gestures. They're built 1 hour at a time with focused intention and purpose. Many people come to me and say, I want to change my life, but I don't have enough time. I always respond, you don't need more time, you need better decisions about the time you already have. If you cannot manage 1 hour effectively, what makes you think you can manage 2? The mastery of life is not in having more time, but in the maximization of the time you already possess. Look at your watch right now. 1 hour represents just 4% of your day. Are you telling me you cannot invest 4% of your day into your future, into your dreams, into your purpose? Anyone can find 1 hour. The question is not, can you find it? The question is, will you decide to use it? I remember working with a young man in my country who wanted to start a business, but claimed he had no time between his job and family responsibilities. I challenged him to wake up just 1 hour earlier each day to work on his business plan. He resisted at first, saying he needed his sleep, but reluctantly, he agreed to try for just 1 week. 3 months later, he had not only completed a comprehensive business plan, but had also secured initial funding. He told me with tears in his eyes that 1 hour a day transformed my life. I found time I never knew I had. What this young man discovered was not just extra time. He discovered the power of focused attention. When you dedicate 1 solid hour to a single purpose, without distractions, without divided attention, you tap into a level of productivity and creativity that cannot be accessed in fragmented moments. This is why most people never fulfill their potential. They live in fragments. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, always distracted, always interrupted, They never give their dreams the solid, uninterrupted focus they deserve. And then they wonder why they never see results. The 1 hour principle isn't just about duration. It's about depth. It's about going deep rather than wide. It's about quality over quantity. 1 focus hour will always outperform 3 scattered hours. Consider the bamboo tree. When you plant it, nothing appears to happen for almost 4 years. You water it, nurture it, but see no visible growth. People might look at you and think you're wasting your time. But in the 5th year, something remarkable happens. The bamboo suddenly shoots up 90 feet in just 6 weeks. Was it a sudden growth spurt? No, for those 4 years, the bamboo was developing an elaborate root system that would support its future growth. Those years of seeming inactivity were actually the foundation of its rapid success. Your 1 hour a day is like watering the bamboo. You may not see immediate results. You may feel like nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, you are building the foundation for extraordinary growth. Let me be very clear. I'm not talking about wishful thinking or positive affirmations. I'm talking about dedicated, purposeful action taken consistently over time. 1 hour of focused learning. 1 hour of deliberate practice. 1 hour of strategic planning. 1 hour of meaningful creation. Nobody suddenly becomes an expert. Nobody suddenly writes a book. Nobody suddenly builds a business empire. These achievements happen 1 hour at a time. I once met a woman who transformed her health completely. She went from being unable to climb a flight of stairs without getting winded to completing a marathon. When I asked her how she did it, she didn't talk about some magic exercise program or miracle diet. She simply said, 1 hour a day, no excuses, no exceptions. She started by walking for 1 hour. When that became easy, she added light jogging. Gradually, she built up to running. The key wasn't the intensity of her workouts. It was the consistency. She showed up for herself every single day for 1 hour without fail. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year of consistent, focused effort. They want instant results in a world that doesn't work that way. Success is not an event, it's a process. And processes take time to unfold. But here's the good news: you don't need to dedicate your entire life to see change. You just need 1 hour a day of undistracted, purposeful action toward your most important goal. Think about it. 1 hour a day is 365 hours per year. That's more than 9 40-hour work weeks dedicated to your dream, your purpose, your growth. Show me anyone who has invested 9 full work weeks of focused effort into any worthwhile pursuit, and I'll show you someone who has made significant progress. The problem is that most people never make this calculation. They see 1 hour as insignificant, so they waste it. They don't realize they're throwing away 9 work weeks of potential progress every year. Your life moves in the direction of your most consistent actions. What you do regularly, not occasionally, determines your outcomes. And consistent action begins with consistent time commitment. I challenge you right now, identify the one area of your life that needs the most improvement. Is it your health, your relationships, your finances, your spiritual growth, your intellectual development? Now commit to giving that area 1 solid hour of focused attention every day for the next 90 days. Not 30 minutes here and there, one uninterrupted. Distraction-free hour. Do this, and you will be astounded by the results. Not because you've discovered some secret shortcut, but because you've tapped into one of the most fundamental principles of achievement: Sustained focus over time creates exponential results. The most dangerous lie you've been told is that significant achievement requires significant time. That belief has paralyzed more potential than any other obstacle on earth. When you believe transformation demands massive chunks of your schedule, you set yourself up for failure before you even begin. Time isn't just measured in quantity, it's measured in quality. And quality time is created through intention, not duration. This is the secret that the most accomplished individuals throughout history have understood. They didn't have more hours in their day than you do. They simply extracted more value from each hour they invested. Let me share something personal with you. Years ago, I was overwhelmed with responsibilities, leading an organization, writing books, traveling internationally, maintaining family commitments. People would constantly ask me, how do you do it all? The answer wasn't working more hours, it was understanding the compounding effect of consistent, focused time blocks. I began setting aside 1 hour each morning before the sun rose. Just 1 hour dedicated to the development of a single book I was writing. No phone calls, no emails, no distractions. Just 60 minutes of pure creation. Within 6 months, that book was completed, not because I spent all day writing, but because I honored that 1 hour with total focus. What I discovered was profound. When you remove all distractions and commit fully to a single task for 1 solid hour, your brain operates at a level of efficiency that cannot be achieved in scattered fragments of time. This is what psychologists call flow state, where your productivity and creativity multiply exponentially. This principle applies to every area of life. Consider physical fitness. Many people believe they need to spend hours in the gym to see results. But research consistently shows that high-intensity interval training for just 1 hour can produce better results than 3 hours of moderate exercise. It's not the quantity of time, it's the quality of engagement. I once worked with a business owner who complained he had no time to strategize about his company's future. He was constantly putting out fires, responding to emergencies, dealing with day-to-day operations. His business was plateauing because he couldn't step back and think about long-term growth. I challenged him to block off just 1 hour every day, first thing in the morning, to work exclusively on business strategy. No email, no staff interruptions, no phone calls. Just pure, uninterrupted strategic thinking. He resisted, claiming he couldn't possibly spare an hour with so many urgent matters demanding his attention. 3 months after implementing this practice, his business grew by 37%. Not because he worked more hours, but because he finally gave his most important work, strategic thinking, the focused attention it deserved. That 1 hour proved more valuable than the other 7 combined. Here's what most people miss. Small commitments. Maintain consistently, create compound interest in every area of life. Just as financial investments grow exponentially over time through compound interest, so do investments of focused time. If you improve just 1% each day through your 1 hour commitment, after 1 year you'll be 37 times better than when you started. Not 365% better, which would be impressive enough, but 3,700% improved. This is the miracle of compounding. Most people never experience this compounding effect because they're inconsistent. They work intensely for 3 days, then skip 4. They exercise vigorously for a week, then take a month off. They study diligently for 2 hours, then neglect their learning for weeks. This pattern ensures you're always starting over rather than building momentum. The power of 1 hour lies in its sustainability. Anyone can maintain 1 hour of focused effort daily, regardless of how busy their schedule. And when that hour is protected with religious devotion, the compounding begins. I want you to understand something critical. Your brain is designed to solve problems when given focused attention and sufficient time. But in our distraction-filled world, we rarely give our minds the uninterrupted space they need to work at peak capacity. A study from the University of California found that it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully refocus after being interrupted. This means that 4 minor interruptions during your workday can essentially eliminate 2 hours of productive time when you commit to 1 uninterrupted hour. You're actually gaining significantly more than 60 minutes of effective work. I know a talented musician who complained for years that he couldn't find time to practice enough to reach professional level. He had a full-time job, family responsibilities, community commitments. If only I had 3 or 4 hours daily to practice. He lamented. I challenged him to find just 1 hour, no more, no less, and to make that hour sacred. 6 months later, he had mastered pieces he previously thought impossible. Not because he suddenly had more time, but because his practice became concentrated, deliberate, and consistent. The quality of that 1 hour far exceeded what he would have accomplished in 3 hours of distracted. Inconsistent practice. This principle transcends all fields of endeavor. In academics, research shows that students who study intensely for 1 focused hour retain more information than those who study for 3 hours while simultaneously checking social media. In business, 1 hour of deep work can produce results that 10 hours of shallow work never could. But here's the key that most people miss. That 1 hour must be protected like the treasure it truly is. You must establish boundaries around it that nothing and no one can violate. Not your phone, not your email, not your family, not your co-workers, nothing. This isn't selfishness, it's stewardship. You're responsible for developing what you've been given. And that development happens most powerfully in focused blocks of time. When you first establish this sacred hour, you'll face resistance, both external and internal. Others will question your sudden unavailability. Your own mind will generate distractions and excuses. This resistance is natural. It's your old patterns fighting to maintain the status quo. Push through this initial resistance, and something magical happens around day 21. The hour becomes autopilot. Your brain begins to anticipate and prepare for this focus time. Your creativity, problem-solving ability, and productivity during this hour begin to multiply. Consider how this principle applies to relationships. Many couples spend hours together physically while being mentally absent, scrolling through phones, half listening, thinking about work. Then they wonder why their connection feels shallow. 1 hour fully present. Undistracted connection will transform a relationship faster than 10 hours of distracted togetherness. I work with a father who complained about his strained relationship with his teenage son. We live in the same house but feel miles apart, he told me. I suggested he establish 1 hour each day, just one, where his son received his complete, undivided attention. No phones, no TV, no other family members, just focused time together. Within weeks, their relationship transformed completely. His son began opening up about struggles he'd been hiding for years. Trust was rebuilt. Communication flowed naturally. Not because they spent more time together, but because the time they did spend carried infinitely more value through complete presence. This is the hidden power of small commitments. When you give something your full, undistracted attention, you compress time, you extract maximum value from each minute, you access levels of performance creativity, and connection that scattered attention can never reach. The tragedy is that most people never discover this power. They continue believing the lie that significant achievement requires significant time. So they wait for the mythical someday when they'll magically have hours of free time, which, of course, never comes. Stop waiting for more time. You already have all the time there is. Start with 1 hour. Protect it ferociously. Focus during it intensely. Maintain it consistently. And watch as the compound effect begins to transform everything it touches in your life. The coral reef grows one polyp at a time. The bamboo strengthens its roots one day at a time. And your greatest achievements will unfold one focused hour at a time. Part 3, transforming principles into practice, 700 words. The distance between knowing and doing is measured in action. Many people understand principles but fail to implement them. Understanding the power of 1 hour is meaningless until you transform that understanding into daily practice. Let me be straight with you. Knowledge without application is merely entertainment. You can attend every seminar, read every book, listen to every speech. But until you implement what you learn, nothing changes. The gap between potential and achievement is closed only through consistent application. So how do you transform the 1 hour principle into tangible results? First, you must identify your highest value activity, the one thing that, if done consistently, would create the greatest positive impact in your life or business. This requires brutal honesty and clear priorities. For some of you, that highest value activity might be writing, or others. It's strategic planning. Perhaps it's relationship building, skill development, or creative problem solving. Whatever it is, isolate it. Name it. Claim ownership of it. I once worked with a woman who dreamed of starting her own consulting business but was trapped in a cycle of preparation without action. She had taken courses, earned certifications, and researched extensively, but never actually launched. When I asked why, she said, "I'm waiting, I'm fully ready." I challenged her to dedicate 1 hour daily to client acquisition, not more learning, not more preparation, but direct outreach to potential clients. Just 1 hour of focused action, consistently applied. Within 3 weeks, she had signed her first 2 clients. 3 months later, she was able to leave her job. The transformation came not because she started working more hours, but because she directed one focused hour toward her highest leverage activity, the one thing that would move her business forward most dramatically. Second, you must design your environment to support your 1 hour. Environment always wins over willpower. If your designated hour is filled with distractions, interruptions, and competing demands, you'll fail regardless of your intentions. This means physically removing yourself from distractions when possible. It means turning off all notifications. It means communicating boundaries clearly to those around you. It means preparing all necessary tools and resources before your hour begins. I know a writer who transformed his productivity by creating a dedicated writing space in his home. It wasn't elaborate, just a small desk in a corner of his bedroom. But he established a rule. When sitting at that desk during his designated hour, he was unavailable for anything else. His family respected this boundary because he communicated its importance clearly and limited it to just 1 hour. Third, you must track your progress meticulously. The 1 hour principle works through compound effect, which means results often appear gradually rather than immediately. Without tracking, You'll miss the subtle improvements that compound over time. I recommend keeping a simple journal where you record what you accomplished during each hour and any insights that emerged. Review this journal weekly to maintain perspective on your progress. This practice creates accountability and provides valuable data about your productivity patterns. Fourth, you must ritualize your 1 hour until it becomes non-negotiable. This means establishing a specific time and trigger that automatically initiates your focused work. Perhaps it's immediately after waking, right after lunch, or at the same hour each evening. A trigger might be as simple as brewing a specific tea, putting on particular music, or sitting in a designated chair. These physical cues train your brain to enter a focused state more quickly and reliably. Finally, you must protect your 1 hour from the most dangerous threat of all, your own excuses. The human mind is masterful at generating reasons to avoid focused work. I'm too tired. I don't feel inspired today. I'll do it tomorrow instead. Just this once won't matter. These seemingly innocent exceptions destroy the compound effect. Remember, consistency is what creates the magic. One focused hour, applied consistently over time, will always outperform sporadic bursts of intense activity. The question isn't whether the 1 hour principle works. The evidence is overwhelming across every field of human endeavor. The question is whether you will apply it consistently enough to experience its transformative power in your own life. Every worthy endeavor faces resistance. Your commitment to the 1 hour principle will be tested not once, but daily. Understanding the obstacles before they appear is your first line of defense against failure. The first and most insidious obstacle you'll face is what I call the urgency trap. Our world constantly bombards us with supposedly urgent matters that demand immediate attention. Your phone pings. Your email inbox fills. People request just a minute of your time. Each interruption seems small and reasonable in isolation. But here's the truth. Most urgency is artificial. Most emergencies aren't emergencies at all. They're merely the priorities of others disguised as your emergencies. I learned this lesson painfully early in my career. I was constantly accessible, always responding to the latest crisis, perpetually putting out fires. I felt busy and important. But at the end of each year, I realized I had made minimal progress on my most significant goals. I was confusing activity with achievement, motion with progress. The solution is ruthless prioritization of your sacred hour. This means having the courage to say not now to genuinely good opportunities that aren't aligned with your highest purpose. It means disappointing people in the short term to serve your mission in the long term. The second major obstacle is inconsistency. Human beings naturally seek variety. We get bored easily. We crave novelty. This makes sustained daily focus on a single priority extremely challenging. I've seen countless people start with enthusiasm, maintain momentum for a week or two, then gradually skip days, make exceptions, and ultimately abandon their commitment entirely. They didn't fail because the principle doesn't work. They failed because they didn't work the principle consistently enough to see results. Combat this tendency by creating accountability structures. Find someone who will check whether you've honored your hour. Make a public commitment. Establish meaningful consequences for missing your commitment. These external structures support internal discipline when motivation inevitably wanes. The third obstacle is what psychologists call the valley of disappointment, that period where you're putting in consistent effort but not yet seeing visible results. This valley appears in every significant endeavor. The writer who's produced 100 pages but hasn't finished a manuscript. The entrepreneur who's made 50 sales calls but hasn't landed a major client. The athlete who's trained for weeks but hasn't lost visible weight. This valley is where most people quit. They interpret the lack of immediate results as evidence that their approach isn't working. What they don't realize is that they're often just one more week of consistency away from a breakthrough. I experienced this directly when building my organization. For months, I dedicated 1 hour daily to developing our leadership curriculum. There were days it felt pointless, like I was creating content no one would ever use. I was tempted countless times to redirect that hour toward more immediately rewarding activities. But I persisted through the valley of disappointment. And when we finally launched the curriculum, it transformed thousands of leaders across multiple countries. Had I abandoned my commitment during that valley, that impact would never have materialized. The fourth obstacle is environmental. Your environment either supports or sabotages your commitments. If your designated hour is constantly interrupted by noise, people, or digital distractions, your focus fractures and your effectiveness plummets. Create an environment that makes your 1 hour commitment easier, not harder. This might mean finding a new physical space, establishing clear boundaries with family or colleagues, or using technology to block distractions during your focus time. The final and perhaps most challenging obstacle is your own mind. Our brains are masterful at self-sabotage. They generate compelling reasons to break commitments. They rationalize exceptions. They magnify discomfort. They minimize long-term consequences. Combat this through mindfulness, the practice of observing your thoughts without automatically believing or acting on them. When your mind generates an excuse to skip your hour, simply notice the thought without accepting it as truth. Then recommit to your practice regardless of how you feel in the moment. Remember, professionals commit to their practice regardless of how they feel. Amateurs work only when inspired. The power of 1 hour depends not on occasional brilliant performance, but on consistent, daily commitment through all obstacles. These challenges aren't reasons to abandon the principle. They're opportunities to develop the character required for extraordinary achievement. Every obstacle overcome strengthens your capability to maintain consistency in the face of resistance. Legacy isn't built in grand gestures. It's constructed in quiet hours when no one is watching. 1 hour today might seem insignificant, but multiplied across years, it becomes the foundation of everything you'll leave behind. Let me share with you the story of Mr. Thompson, a man I met during my travels in West Africa at age 65. He was known throughout his region as a master craftsman whose intricate wooden sculptures were sought after worldwide. His pieces now sit in museums and private collections across continents. When I asked about his journey, he smiled and took me to a small shed behind his home. Inside was a simple wooden chair and a workbench with basic tools. This is where it all happened. He said quietly, 1 hour every morning before sunrise for 43 years, while my friends slept, while my family rested. I came here and worked on becoming better. He explained that as a young man working multiple jobs to support his family, he couldn't find large blocks of time to develop his craft. But he could find 1 hour, 4:30 to 5:30 a.m. daily before his workday began. This single hour, protected with religious devotion over decades, transformed him from novice to master. People see the sculptures, he told me, but they don't see the thousands of hours that made them possible. They call it talent. I call it showing up when no one else would. His words revealed the profound truth about lasting achievement Consistency over time creates exponential results that appear magical to outside observers.